Hey everyone, my name is Riley Newton and I'm one of the student pastors at the Orchard Tupelo. We're so glad that you're tuning into this devotional series today. 1st and 2nd Peter are some of my favorite books in the entire Bible, and here's why. In these letters, Peter is writing to Gentile Christians, and Gentile is basically a fancy way to say non-Jewish. This is really important distinction because the Christians who were previously Jewish were trying to put all sorts of rules and regulations on these new Gentile Christians. And most of these Gentile Christians didn't follow Jewish regulations, and this made the Jewish Christians really, really mad. So these Gentile Christians were considered almost to be second-class Christians by these Jewish Christians. It's kind of a tongue twister, try to say Jewish Christians 3 times fast. So Peter opens up his letter in 1 Peter 1 to directly combat this point of view from these Jewish Christians. He makes all these Old Testament references to symbolically tell these Gentile Christians that they're every bit as much a part of the family as God as these Jewish brothers and sisters. He tells them that they're God's holy people in the wilderness. He tells them that they're the new Exodus. He tells them that they're God's new covenant people. And then he gets to this section where we pick up today in 1 Peter 2, verses 1 through 5. So get rid of all evil behavior, be done with all deceit, hypocrisy, jealousy, and all unkind speech. Like newborn babies, you must crave pure spiritual milk so that you'll grow into full experience of salvation. Cry out for this nourishment now that you have a taste of the Lord's kindness. You're coming to Christ, who's the living cornerstone of God's temple. He was rejected by the people, but he was chosen by God for great honor. And you are living stones that God is building into his spiritual temple. What's more, you're his holy priests. Through the mediation of Jesus Christ, you offer spiritual sacrifices that please God. Peter calls these Gentile Christians the living stones that God is using to build his holy temple. He's saying that the main focus of the church is not the building, but it's actually the people. Now, this is a powerful statement in normal times, but I think this statement has lost its power by how often we've thrown these words around in the church. You know, we've always said, here's the church, here's the steeple, open the doors and see all the people. Oh, I did that horribly wrong. Here's the church, here's the steeple, open the doors and see all the people. I guess that's a little bit better. I don't know. But what Peter is saying here is even more important as we as a church are scattered around and just meeting in our homes. Even though in this season we aren't meeting corporately, we're still very much a church and we're called to support and love each other. But look what Peter says in the second half of verse 5. This is where it gets really good. Peter says this: you are God's priests. Another way to say this is you are God's representatives to people who have no shot otherwise. Peter says this to a group of believers who are facing opposition from all sorts of things around them in Asia Minor. But as we read these words, we're facing daily opposition in our lives today because of the coronavirus. So what does it look like for us to start to live as priests today? Now, I'm not talking about dressing like the Pope, finding the nearest pulpit so you can preach a sermon, or wearing a crucifix around your neck 24/7. I'm talking about how we can practically represent God during this pandemic in 2020. What does it look like if we get creative and we start to do some things like this? Reach out to a neighbor and see how they're doing. Call a friend that you know might be feeling alone in this time. Encourage some others on social media. Love your family like Jesus loves them. There's all sorts of ways that we can get creative and be God's living stones, representatives of him in this time, even though we're not seeing each other face to face. And by these things, God continues to build his church even when we're not present in our church building. So get creative and let's live as priests today. Just a few reminders before you go. If you want to join the Orchard's daily Bible reading, text READ PLAN to 662-269-0328. And if you're looking for some really great and encouraging music to listen to while you're cooped up in your house, find our worship playlist on Spotify by clicking the link in the caption below. Thank you so much for tuning in. Hope this has been encouraging and life-giving, and we'll see you tomorrow for the next devotion.